Hi everybody! Welcome back to Love English. I'm Sabrah.
And I'm Leila.
And today we're looking at 8 steps to achieve fluency in English.
We are actually British university teachers. We teach EAP at a university college. What does that mean? It means English for academic purposes. So we have lots of ideas to help you guys reach the same level of fluency our students need to go to university.
That's right, guys. So we've seen that these steps really work, and we've both been teaching for a long time, so we're very excited to share these steps we have with you today. So the thing is about becoming fluent in a language is that not every step or every tip will work for everybody. Learning a language is actually a very personal thing, and you're going to need to try different things to find which method works for you, and particularly things like your learner style, which we'll be coming on to later.
So guys, 8 steps to fluency. Let's get started.
Let's go. Okay guys, so step number 1. Now you've heard this before, I'm sure. It's called immersion. And basically the way to learn a language is to surround yourself in it. Now I'm sure you've heard this before, so we're going to talk about a few different things that you can do. It's obvious that you'll try and read the news, that you'll try and watch movies in English, get a Netflix account and watch Netflix series and things like that.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea,
yeah.
But there are lots of other things you can do actually, like using online websites. So for example, there's so many online resources these days where you can practice your English. You can practice grammar, you can practice your vocabulary, your listening, all kinds of things like that. So I strongly suggest that you start to have a look at all the free materials that are online these days. For example, you can watch movies, we all know that. You can read the news, Leila.
Yeah, I mean, you could check out the news in your country, but in English. So you could go to BBC World News, click on your country, your region, and read the news, read what's happening in English rather than just your own language.
That's right. And of course, other things like, for example, watching a film with the subtitles on, those kind of things.
Listening to English music, which I'm sure many of you do. And of course, guys, we're all on social media regularly, but why don't you change your social media language to English?
Yeah, then you'll see it all the time. Another thing I did when I was learning Spanish, actually, was that I put up words that I wanted to learn, and I wanted to learn them quickly, and I put these lists up all around the rooms where I would see them often. So if I wanted to learn, for example, vocabulary for describing people and their appearance, I put these lists up in my bedroom and kitchen so I'd see them all the time. I was immersed.
You were literally immersed, swimming in the language. There we go. So that's step number 1. Right guys, step number 2. Sabrah's got her phone at the ready and we're going to tell you why. Now, the great thing is, as Sabrah mentioned, we are in an online world nowadays. And of course, you guys love apps as we do. Now, a lot of you would like to have access to a teacher, not just through YouTube, but personally, so you can communicate and learn from them, speaking with a native tutor. Now, there's a great app for this, and it is Cambly. There we go. So with Cambly, you have access to teachers around the globe, British, American, Canadian, 24/7. The app works around you, so you can choose and schedule when you want your lessons, how many lessons you want, and whether you want private or group.
You can learn it with a group if you want to. It's really something that fits around you. So because you're Love English watchers, you get a special deal. And if you want to have a go at trying Cambly and actually speaking to a native speaker now, at the end of this video, you can click the link in the description box and you actually get 20 minutes of a free lesson. So you get a free trial rather than the normal 5-minute trial.
So that's an extra 15 minutes more.
So you can talk to a native speaker and actually start practicing English at the click of a button. And that is what is so convenient and fantastic about Cambly.
Perfect. What more could you want?
So step number 3. Now, not everybody learns in the same way. We all have a certain style and a certain way that we learn. So for example, I like to learn by seeing things. I need to see the words, and I also like to be able to hear things so that I can match that and I remember it better if I hear it. Now, that's not the same for everybody. For example, Leila, how do you like to learn?
I like movement. I like matching things together, cutting things up. I'm very tactile, or what we call kinesthetic.
Yeah, that's right. So everybody has a learner style, and there are 4 different kinds of learner style. There are visual, so if you more need to see things to learn. There's auditory, where you need to hear things to learn. There's kinesthetic, as Leila was saying, so touchy-feely people. And there is reading and writing for those studious people who, when they write things down and they read, they learn better. Now, often people are a combination. They're not normally just visual, actually. For example, I'm visual auditory. Leila's probably visual kinesthetic. But you'll have one that is more dominant. Now, you can do a test called a VARK to find out what you are, what your learner style is. And we'll put the link below for you guys to find that, so you can actually find out how you learn best. So let's explain a little bit more about kinesthetic, Leila, and how it can help you. If you know your learner style, you can actually do more of these activities so you learn better.
So if you are kinesthetic, Sabrah was mentioning about being visual and having lots of things around the room and pictures and words, but if you are more kinesthetic, then it often benefits you to not be sat down at a desk just studying a book. You need to be moving or actually doing something. If you're learning kitchen vocabulary, for example, go into the actual kitchen and have a look
around.
A pot, a pan, a knife, a fork. You can actually touch and see these things. And your brain is more likely to make those connections to help you remember.
That's right. It's all about connections, learner connections. So find out what you are, guys. And once you know what you are, try to play to that. So if you're visual, you know that you have to see things. If you're auditory, listen more. Listen to more podcasts and things like that. So help it to make it work to your advantage.
Okay guys, step number 4, chunking. Okay, now this sounds a bit strange.
Like a chunky? Sounds like a Kit Kat chunky.
Yeah, chocolate bar. No, it's not. It's basically learning stretches of phrases, expressions, and actually you probably have already done this. It's how we learn more naturally, to be honest. So rather than getting worried about the grammar and the intricate details of how the sentence is formed, just look at fixed phrases. So Sabrah, you've done this a lot in learning Italian.
Yeah, and Spanish. So when I was going to live in Ecuador, I did some travel in Ecuador, and I was very nervous about not being able to speak the language. So I learned a couple of sentences and key phrases that I knew I could say perfectly and that I would be able to feel confident with and use.
Do you remember any?
I do. ¿A qué hora es el desayuno? What time is breakfast?
Wow, essential.
So I learned these very well, and it helped me to feel more confident, and slowly with these sentences I built on those, and from there I was able to actually start having conversations. So these are kind of, I would describe chunking as like the building blocks of a language. So if you feel confident with a couple of phrases, you expand to sentences, and after that you keep going.
And it works at beginner level as well. You really can just learn phrases, fixed expressions, how much is it, where can I go, all these kind of basic things.
Yeah, that's right. But you can use it later. If you're an intermediate learner, you can start to think about more advanced and complex sentences and building on those, but learning some key ones at the beginning that you feel confident with.
So step 4 was chunking.
So step number 5. Now, it wouldn't be learning a language unless we had lots of speaking practice. Now, you can do this with Cambly, and you can speak with a native speaker.
And be corrected.
That's right.
I think that's probably quite important.
But you also need to find somebody that you can speak with really on a daily basis, if possible. Now, it's difficult to find this, I know, if you're perhaps not in an English learning environment, if you're not in a school, you can think, oh, how am I going to find this? But because we live in this online world, you can actually practice English with people on Facebook groups and things like that. There are always other people who are looking to practice their English, and perhaps you can have conversations on Skype and things like that. Now, another thing that you can do, which again I did when I was learning a language, is arrange to have a language exchange or a language swap.
Oh,
and this is where, so this is where you want to learn, for example, Italian, and this Italian person wants to improve their English, and you can arrange to actually meet together and have 1 hour or half an hour in the different languages.
So you speak in your language and they speak in theirs?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So You actually need, obviously, to find somebody who wants to do this, but in countries like Spain, Italy, and a lot of Europe, this is already very popular. So if you look at, for example, intercambio, in Spanish it's called an intercambio, you could look that up and find who wants to do that in your area. So perhaps it's a good idea to Google what it actually is in that language. If you're looking for a language exchange in, for example, Germany or Switzerland, what is it in that language? So Google that and then start to look for a speaking partner.
Right, step number 6, and it doesn't matter what level of English language learning you are at, it's really important not to worry and stress too much about making mistakes, because that's really going to slow down your progress. The more mistakes you make, the more you can be corrected by a teacher, for example, and the more you'll hear the mistakes yourself. The most important thing is to really, in the beginning, slow down, listen carefully to what you're saying, and you'll be able to correct some of those errors, whether they're grammatical or pronunciation, yourself.
That's right, yes. So now Leila and I have a very good example of this because we're different kinds of learners and we're both trying to learn Italian at the moment.
This is a really good
Ciao!
example.
Come stai tutti? So yes, in Leila's case, she does worry about the mistakes that she makes and she feels very nervous about speaking. She doesn't feel very confident.
No.
Whereas I don't care as much about the mistakes.
Can't shut her up in any language, Italian, Spanish, English, she talks.
I don't really care if I'm making lots of grammar mistakes. What I care about is being understood and being able to communicate. And I think perhaps it's helped me to get started in Italian. So what I would really say is that later on, when you're learning a language, then you need to care about your mistakes and you need to correct yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're in the early stages, it's really important to just get going and get speaking.
Just talk.
Yeah, don't worry. So Leila, were you going to pay attention to this step with Italian?
Sì. You can see, illustrated perfectly. Ciao bella, come stai?
Allora, tutto bene. E tu, come stai?
Bene, bene.
Cosa fai oggi?
Ok, basta.
Okay guys, so that was just a little bit of fun we were having because tip number 7 is to record yourself.
Yeah.
Now the reason we say record yourself is because this way you can really listen to your accent and you can really watch the shapes that your mouth is making to see if you are making the correct sounds in English. Now when you're watching movies or when you're listening to podcasts and things like that, you can actually try and copy, this is called imitation English, so it's a technique to imitate a native speaker.
Yeah.
Now you can copy them and see if you're saying it in the same way. Now how do you test if you're saying it the same way? You listen back to your recording. Can be quite scary to do this actually.
Well, I think the most important thing with pronunciation in English is we enunciate, we say our words very clearly so you understand us quite well. And it's the same for you guys. For us to be able to understand you, you need to pronounce those T's, E's, A's, R's, O's. Yeah. So practicing and looking at the shape of the mouth and understanding the position of where the tongue and the teeth should be all contribute to the sounds in English, and many of them you don't have in your languages, so it's new, it's an exercise.
Yeah, that's very true, very good, Leila.
You do, when you go to the gym, you look at yourself, and well, I don't, but you look at yourself in the mirror and you check that you are doing the exercises and the postures correctly. So think about this as pronunciation for the gym pronunciation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also a good way to see if you're making an accent correctly.
Yeah.
So for example, you can listen back and see if you're doing a good British accent, which of course, as Brits, we recommend.
Yes. Okay, the last step, which I am guilty of not really achieving, is to be disciplined, to try and make time daily in your routine to actually learn and practice the language. And this can be really hard when you work, you've got full-time jobs and a YouTube channel, particularly. But of course for you guys, many of you will be students studying at university, many of you have got full-time jobs, maybe even families. So finding that time in your day where you know you can dedicate 10-15 minutes at least really to studying is so important.
It really is. It can be very difficult, as Leila was saying, to do that, but good news folks is that you don't have to. do this just alone. So for example, if you have a speaking partner, how much easier is it if you speak to somebody? They can actually motivate you. Or things like we were saying before, practicing online. The way that I learn Italian is that I often have, for example, YouTube on in the background while I'm cooking. So I'll actually be multitasking. So that way I still get my half an hour of Italian, even if, for example, I've had a really busy day, I'll still have a little time learning Italian. Also, I watch lots of Italian movies. I try to listen to songs.
How do you say it?
Montalbano.
Yeah, it was good.
So even things like that, actually, just watching half an hour of a movie can be your daily practice.
But I will take you back to step number 2, which was getting an online tutor, which can work really well because that's already scheduled. If you've scheduled a time that you're going to see a tutor online, then you know at that time that is your English lesson.
Yeah. And that's what's so great about Cambly is you can select the time so they will work around you.
Right guys, thank you very much for watching. We hope we have enlightened you and given you some helpful steps to improve your fluency. Now, if you have got any other suggestions or recommendations,
so guys, if you've got some comments, if you've got some things that you want to share with us, some of your ideas about how you've become fluent or how you're becoming fluent, please let us know in the comments below. We really like to hear those. And also guys, remember, go and get your free trial lesson with Cambly by using that link in the description box. So go and start talking to a native speaker today. You can also find us on Facebook,
Twitter,
Snapchat
and Instagram.
Follow us on those guys for more Love English.
Don't forget to subscribe and of course share the lesson if you found it helpful.
Okay guys, thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
Bye.